Hi guys, welcome back to Dev Astrology. Well, before starting recording this video, I was just revising some of my concepts from Brihat Parashar Hora Shastra. A lot of you keep asking me, Dev, how did you go about training yourself, educating yourself in this space? And I keep telling people that, I'm a self-taught, self-learned, self-educated person when it comes to astrology. I jokingly also say I'm the Eklavya of astrology. But I think the gurus are in Saraswati Ma, Shivji himself. I pray to him, and maybe once I started learning, I realized that I have multiple yogas of being an astrologer in my chart. But the reason I was going back, I was supposed to be coming up with Saturn in Revati for all signs, but I just wanted to examine what is going on in my own Dashantar Dasha. And guys, I want to share a perspective as we jump into the reading that astrology in itself, it's a cursed knowledge. It's cursed in the sense that the more you know about some things, it as if the information tends to elude you, specifically if you are looking into your own chart. So I try not to do that, but being human, it just naturally happens that start shifting and exploring that bit. However, at the start of this video, I want to thank all of you folks who've shown your trust and faith in me, and you've chosen to be a member of my channel. Thanks a lot to you folks, guys. It gives tremendous amount of confidence, self-belief. I'm filled with a lot of gratitude towards each one of you, because you are in a small way contributing towards the effort that I put week over week. I fail a lot of times, I make mistakes, but you guys seem to be accommodating each bit of me, the human in me, what makes us human for that matter. And you see that I try to be as transparent, whether it be my readings, whether it be my YouTube interactions or whatever. So I just wanted to extend Shat Naman. Thank you to all of you for your support, your belief, and let's just continue in terms of extending this thought process as far as we can. Now, let's move on from all this emotional bit and the personal tidbit that I wanted to share in this video today, guys. Last week, we talked about Saturn's, master class of sorts, where I gave a perspective to you folks as to what can be anticipated with Saturn's shift into the sign of Pisces and in that Revati Nakshatra. And we learned that Saturn is here going to be acting like that cosmic accountant of sorts, where it is going to be bringing an end to its 30-year long karmic cycle. Now, before we jump on to analyze the impact of this shift of Saturn into each of the signs coming in here, I want you to go back and maybe revisit that video if possible in a fast-paced fashion, listen into the key points so that you don't find anything amiss and you are able to relate to the bit in this video as well. Now, we've got to remember that we have to track Saturn's lordship. So you've got to look in your birth chart, or in your, if you're watching from a Lagna as well as from a moon sign standpoint, Saturn's lordship comes from a Capricorn as well as Aquarius perspective. Number two, it is ruled by Nakshatra of Revati is ruled by Mercury. We've got to remember that bit as well. So see the placement of how Mercury is performing in your respective chart, in your natal chart as well. That will give you a lot of idea about the strength of the Nakshatra in your chart as well. And then very importantly, we've got to remember Saturn's got three aspects, three gazes into the sign of Taurus, into the sign of Virgo and Sagittarius as it traverses throughout our chart placement. So without further ado, let's jump into understanding what's in store for you with the shift of Saturn in the sign of Revati. Now, Aries, you can watch this both from an Aries rising as well as Aries moon sign perspective. And remember, from a moon sign standpoint, Saturn is the one which is bringing in Sade Sati as well for you folks. Now, if you see, with its shift into Revati Nakshatra, Saturn is casting an aspect into your second house of Taurus, into your sixth house in the sign of Virgo, and on your ninth house in the sign of Sagittarius. From a career perspective, from your job and business standpoint, given that Saturn happens to be the lord of your 10th house and your 11th house, it has moved into the sign of isolation and foreign lands, which is clearly indicating that there could be some sort of a wrap up coming in from an old professional chapter perspective. There's a very high chance, guys, during this shift of Saturn in the sign of Revati, there is going to be some closure of sorts that could be coming into picture. Now, this can pan out both positive and negative. A lot of people will just go about harping the fact that Saturn is going to, sorry, I just keep massaging my fingers. Most of you are aware I broke my fingers while playing cricket, so just bear with me. Now, when Saturn has come into this place, it is not necessarily going to be giving a positive effect. A lot of people are assuming that for Aries and a few other signs it's going to be all positive. The possibilities are going to be dependent on the fact as to what is the Ashtavarga placement, what is the placement of dignity of Mercury or Saturn in your natal chart as well. That becomes hyper crucial. You've got to figure out the dignity in your natal chart first. However, what it is indicating is that given that it is in the last nakshatra, in the very last cycle itself, possibly some sort of a closure is coming. Now, that closure could be in a positive way. For somebody who is unemployed looking for a job opportunity, it could be a closure of that negative cycle. For somebody who's been stuck up in a wrong place with the wrong set of people in the wrong job, not enjoying their place there, it could be an end to that. But for some of you who've been coasting around and not been putting in enough amount of efforts, well, Saturn is the accountant of the karmic initiative, so it's going to balance out that bit as well, and it can bring disruption. You see, some of the biggest companies are bringing in changes with the advent of AI and stuff. It is having its repercussions, of course, in the US geography where I live, but once US sneezes, the entire world catches cold. So, it could percolate down into your area as well. So the point I'm trying to make is that there is going to be some drastic shift coming into picture. If you are in a career, in a profession that deals with import-export related businesses, which deals with working behind the scenes, those registered nurses jobs when you're working late nights, morning shifts, something that makes you take all jobs as such, areas where you are working with multinational corporations and stuff, this is going to be a period where you could see some bit of a sudden alignment also coming into picture, some sort of a shift. New doors do get open. Remember, I mentioned in the masterclass video that once Saturn is in Revati, it is like you have to sail in through the end of the tunnel. So it's like if an end is coming into picture, which means a last fight is also there. This is the last fight that you have to take up before that shift comes into picture. So it could be a beginning of that fight or end of that fight. That last phase is what I'm alluding to here. So if you are in those, import-export businesses, in multinational corporations and stuff, or working, let's say, in hospitals, in places of isolation, there could be some sort of a dramatic shift coming into picture. However, people who are in mainstream jobs, people who are working with local environments, people who are working in local structures of sorts, for Aries people, you are going to find some bit of heaviness, some bit of hidden burden also coming into picture. So be open towards that. My job is, guys, to give you a larger perspective so that you get much more clarity. From a business standpoint as well, things remain something similar from this aspect. If you are, not exploring international opportunities, cross-cultural, cross-border opportunities, if you're not doing work in something which is very different from the mundane, then there could be difficult situations coming into picture. And therefore, it becomes crucial for you to understand that this is the best time for you to look at that end of the tunnel, explore, add in services, add in products, add new customer segments that you can address from a larger market standpoint. That can be one of the best remedies that you can do at this point in time as well. Now, moving on to the finance side, the third aspect is hitting your second house of accumulated wealth. So cash flow could see some bit of restrictions or reformation of sorts also coming into picture. Some bit of a shift, some bit of a transformation in how you are going to navigate your cash flows. Money inflow and money outflow. Cash flow has two components to it. That is something which you will have to review, Aries. Saturn is going to force you to check on your spending habits as well. If you are not putting in any kind of investments towards your upliftment of your knowledge, of your expertise, on training yourself, certifying yourself, you are going to be behind everyone. So that is going to be acting as if sort of a remedy as well at this point in time. Consider upskilling, reskilling, cross-skilling yourself during this phase. Money will go towards clearing some of the karmic bills, I would say. So some of the pending treatment that you had from a medicine perspective, any kind of unexpected taxation related implications coming into picture, spiritual expenses, maybe spiritual pilgrimage, travel coming into picture is a high probability. If that comes, it's a very good spending coming into play for you folks, Aries. From a love relationships standpoint, the seventh aspect is hitting into your sixth house. So it is not directly impacting your fifth or your seventh. But remember, Saturn's seventh aspect is about those partnerships as well. And this is where it is saying that your daily life could have some dispute-like situations. You could feel that there is a lack of emotional peace coming into picture during this phase, or otherwise there is also a probability that you could find yourself extremely lonely emotionally. You might not find anyone around you whom you would be able to express your thought process. This is a period where you have to clear your old unspoken resentment, whether at your workplace or just providing silent services within the community, within the people segment that you operate in. Importantly, do not pick up any new battles at your workplace because that could impact you deeply. From a health standpoint, this is a very important area, high priority area that I would want to call out for you guys. Saturn is in the 12th house, that too now in Revati. So insomnia could increase. Foot injuries, ankle injuries are very much a probability. However, it is giving an aspect back into your sign of Virgo, which means that though there could be low vitality coming into picture, yet you will have decent Shatru Hanta Yog to overcome your problems. Remember, it is in the nakshatra of Revati and it is aspecting the house ruled by Mercury itself. So Mercury's placement is also going to determine if you could have any kind of skin issues, nervous system impact coming into picture, and therefore taking ample amount of rest to recuperate on your health perspective is going to become crucial. From an education perspective, for my student audience guys, the 10th aspect is falling on your 9th house. Now this is where severe structural discipline is required, especially for people who are trying to pursue post-graduation, deep research, foreign-based education coming into picture, higher education if that is on top of your mind. If you are applying for any kind of foreign university visa and stuff, please anticipate heavy amount of scrutiny with respect to paperwork. It is in Revati ruled by Mercury. Therefore, some bit of revisit with respect to paper checks could also come into picture. Now, for my Aries audience, from a remedy perspective, I would want to call out, this is a time where you might want to donate something. Saturn is in the 12th house, in the last leg, in the last lap for that matter. Donate something to the old, donate something in the hospitals. Usually people talk about giving up black lentils, blankets and stuff. I do not, firmly comply to any of those areas. My belief system personally is if you can give something to the needy, to old people, somebody who are downtrodden in your society, in your community, somebody who's hungry, could be a rich person but just famished at that point in time. If you feed a hungry person, rich or poor, the gratitude will hopefully be equal in amount. Yes, of course, somebody who is poor would value it a lot more, but I'm sure you get the drift of what I'm trying to tell you here. So having that emotion, that bhav, as we say, is extremely important. And if you are practicing anything of that sort, Aries, it's going to be fabulous. I hope you've enjoyed the insights that I bring to the table. If you have, then smash on that like button, put in your comments, subscribe to Dev Astrology. If possible, become a member of my channel and support the growth of Dev Astrology. Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Now, for my Taurus audience, you can watch this both from a Taurus rising ascendant or from a Taurus moon standpoint as well. Now, for you guys, Saturn is a Yoga Karaka planet because he is ruling your 9th house of luck, fortune, destiny, as well as your 10th house of karma and public social status. And here it is transiting into your 11th house of gains in Revati, ruled by Mercury. Now it is aspecting your 1st house in the sign of Taurus, your 5th house of Virgo, and your 8th house into the sign of Sagittarius. Let's understand. First and foremost, from a career, job, business perspective, your career lord itself is in the house of networks and it is inching towards the fag end of it. So this is a time where, you are going to realize that if you are working in an organizational setup, the audit is happening in a Revati, which means massive organizations or massive network connections are going to be helping in your professional goals. If you are working in a large entity, that is a great situation to be in. But if you are a self-employed person, if you are an entrepreneur, maybe leveraging social media, large networks, maybe leveraging people from large networks itself, from larger companies itself, is going to become crucial for you. Stalled business ideas, things that have been long delayed, that have not been working out for you from a long duration. Please bear, my dog seems to be continuously asking for me to take him for a walk. I'll have to step out after I record Taurus. You are going to see that those delayed promotions, those delayed long drawn ideas are going to be finally maturing for you. As I said in Revati, that shift in terms of the energy, closure of some chapter, sailing into the final end of the tunnel can come into picture. However, you will have to ensure that you untangle any kind of messy communication issues, miscommunication issues that have come into picture in the past, in the last few weeks, months. You sort those out with your peers, within your network in a very professional manner. Be very direct, open, communicative in such situations. Say you've been having trouble with respect to dealing with something at your workplace. Maybe go ahead and discuss that openly with your boss. This is the time to put that trust and faith in them and make sure that you have that open discussion, because if you are able to do that, if that thing is untangled, there is a very high chance, at least from a transit perspective, Taurus, that things shall materialize positively for you. From a finance standpoint, I see that this is a highly prosperous period. Saturn's presence into the 11th is not at all negative. I have been calling this out for a long time for you guys, Taurus, but it could be strictly calculative by nature. Saturn is going to be very, miserly, frugal in terms of giving up things. So you'll have to see that 11th house is representing gains, but Saturn is going to expect a very structured phenomenon of accounting and thereby giving you only what you deserve. So nothing is going to come over and above. It's all about your old dues, something that was delayed. You anticipated some sort of a bonus. This is the time Saturn and Revati might reward you with that. Some sort of unpaid invoices. Guys, if you're running your business, your venture, you've been stuck in terms of not getting your payments on time. This is the time where you go back and get that cash flow, entangled. Get it sorted. You are going to get maybe, not 100%, 80%, 70% of what was due. But if it's much better than being zero and 1. It's better to be not binary in such circumstances. So Saturn is indicating that those past invoices from past years could suddenly bring an inflow into your account. From a money perspective, it looks to be a very decent situation. Now Saturn's 7th aspect is falling into your 5th house of Virgo. Now moving on towards the relationship, love, and marriage angle, what's happening here is that there could be a dramatic cool down with respect to your romantic pursuits. If you're a single person, you should be looking for a very grounded, highly mature sort of a partner coming in your life. And there could be some bit of Mercurian qualities, that comic timing, being jovial, maybe young looking, young at heart, however still mature. It's going to be a combination of sorts that could get attracted. You will not be successful in a superficial fling at this point in time. So try and avoid getting into such kind of situations, Taurus, because that is exactly not your game. It's not going to be suiting you at all. For people who've been running into existing relationships, for people who are married, this is a time where there is going to be a lot of gravitas, there is going to be a lot of depth, there is going to be a lot of open dialogue. There is a probability that with Saturn entering into Revati in your 11th house, you could actually start to build a bond of friendship as well with your spouse, with your partner. Deeply, the shift will be from passion towards devotion, from romance towards depth in life. So there will be a lot of practicality, there will be a lot of agreements, disagreements, calling out openly what I like, what I dislike about our marriage, our relationships. Those kind of things will come into picture, and there will be some gravitas coming into play. So Taurus, make good use of that bit as well. Now from a health standpoint, the third aspect of Saturn is falling on your Lagna. And I can tell you one thing, that there could be deep amount of physical exhaustion that could be coming into picture. You could feel very tired during this phase. There could be pains on your bones, joint pains, arthritis sort of issues propping up for mature audience. These days I cannot be even saying mature audience, people in their 30s are getting heart attacks and stuff, thanks to the lifestyle that we practice. So guys, do take complete care of your health. There could be joint stiffness kind of issues as well that could be bothering you. I don't want to be giving any kind of medical advices, but having due exposure with the right vitamins, supplements in your diet is important. Do not be skipping calcium, vitamin D for that matter. It's going to be important. For my student audience who are interested with respect to their educational pursuits, there is going to be pursuits in the technical space, in the scientific space, that is going to come into picture. Even complex financial engineering, re-engineering opportunities are going to be highlighted. Saturn is giving its gaze into the Virgo sign in your 5th house. So your intellect around those areas in terms of calculating stuff, doing deep number analysis, etc., that depth is going to get added for you during this phase itself. So that becomes extremely crucial. Remember, Saturn is also giving an aspect into the sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter, in which case happens to be the Lord, will be coming into exaltation in your 3rd house. Now, the important bit is people who are doing any kind of research, etc., deep diving into some matters as well, you are going to put phenomenal amount of effort, and some sort of discovery, some sort of an outcome could also be coming into place from that angle. Now, that is not just limited to education. It can extend to your career and knowledge, understanding overall and beyond. From a remedies perspective, I would want to call out again. Now, since Saturn is in your 11th house, maybe documenting something with respect to your budget, with respect to your financial goals, with respect to your career goals, with your hands, writing it down is going to be one of the most phenomenal activities that you can do. If you've enjoyed watching the insights and the thoughts that I bring on this channel, I will urge you to explore being a subscriber to my channel. Maybe consider being a member of my channel as well, like many of you do. Thanks for your support throughout this bit. Smash on that like button, subscribe to Dave Astrology, and keep watching me. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Now, for my Gemini audience, you can watch this both from a Gemini rising ascendant as well as Gemini moon sign perspective, Mithun Rashi. For you folks, Saturn rules your 8th house of transformation, sudden shifts, as well as your 9th house of luck, fortune, destiny. And it is transiting in your 10th house of career in the in the nakshatra of Revati. Now it is aspecting your 12th house in the sign of Taurus, your 4th house in the sign of Virgo, which is again ruled by Mercury itself, your Lagna Lord. So it is a crucial shift. Saturn is making a shift into your Lagna Lord's sign and into your 7th house ruled by Sagittarius Jupiter. Now let's try and decode the key areas that are getting impacted here. From a career perspective, job and business opportunities perspective, this is the peak shift of Saturn's professional audit. It is going to be examining your complete day-to-day work life, your day-to-day effort schedule, your karma schedule for that matter. Yes, you could feel intense amount of workload. You could feel a lot of pressure coming in from your figures of authority in your life as well. After all, Saturn is going to be the driver who's putting in the efforts in this size. However, Saturn, when it is entering Revati, as I have been alluding, it is like in the fag end of that tunnel. So it is going to be a period where Saturn is going to expect labor, effort, hard work coming in for that one last push, that one last fight that you have to bring with respect to your karma, with respect to your hard work to sail through situations. Now, this is a time where you could feel that as if you are not finding purpose in your career. But this is exactly the shift that Saturn and Revati is going to give you. It is going to demand you to find a purpose, a long-term vision, a long-term goal towards your career. This is a transit which can bring a sudden shift, a pivot of sorts, an abrupt change that could be coming in with respect to your career. Now that could be with respect to a new job opportunity, new career opportunity. I had alluded this in the earlier part of the video, as well as in my Saturn and Revati masterclass, which I had released last week around. And I had clearly mentioned that it is about endings, or it is about bringing closure to something, the last fight before you sail onto something new. And therefore you will realize that for many of you Gemini, it could be a time of decision making. You will figure out that what is right for your business, what is right for your job, what is right for your career shift. Many of you could be shifting sides. You could move from a job to a business, from a business to a job. Side hustles might take a shift. As I said, long-term visions are going to get established. It's an end of a cycle and maturing into something new. This can be dramatically, pivotal for many of you Gemini who are going to set onto a new course of your career in life. That is going to become extremely important. There is going to be some sort of a, foreign connection coming into picture as well, because Saturn is giving an aspect into the sign of Taurus, third aspect into your 12th house. And therefore, many of you might have a completely new beginning, a completely new cycle of sorts of your career journey. Imagine your career spanning 40 to 50 years. Maybe you've spent 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, 30 years in your career. But with this shift, there is going to be a second innings of sorts. Let me put it this way. It's going to be like a second inning of sorts, which is going to be coming into picture. That is the shift that Saturn is promising or is asking for you folks. When we talk about the finance bit, the third aspect is falling into your 12th house itself. Now, this is a time where I would warn against any kind of sudden risky capital investments also coming into picture. Remember, Saturn is the lord of your 8th house as well. So sudden transformation, sudden shifts coming in with respect to expenses could be possible. Be very meticulous when it comes to that. Now, wealth for you folks could look stable. However, business expansion should be more of self-funded, your own investment rather than taking heavy debts. I will not be recommending you folks to to be taking that route. Saturn is giving a hard aspect towards the 12th house, which means it is going to make you think twice about the money that you are putting in. If you are bootstrapping into something, if you are putting your investments with respect to some sort of a purchase, buying something for luxury, leisure, whatever, it's going to give a very hard scrutiny, and that's not a bad thing to happen from a financial perspective. Remember, Saturn from here will also be giving an aspect towards the 4th house into your sign of Virgo, which is ruled by your Lagna Lord itself. So Mercury Saturn is in your Lagna Lord's nakshatra, and therefore its aspect into the 4th is indicating that there will be stability with respect to your mental, emotional peace, for that matter, your hard earned assets, the stability that you've gained over the years. That is what is going to continue in this shift as well. From a relationships, love, marriage angle perspective, the 10th aspect of Saturn is falling onto your 7th house of partnerships. That could be business partnerships as well as your formal relationship, marriage, long-term partnerships that you are living in now. This is going to be a very demanding situation. Saturn sitting in the 10th house, especially nearing that end of the cycle where it eventually has to translate itself into the sign of Aries, is going to demand huge amount of effort from your side, and which means that there could be some degree of coldness, not enough time for you to maintain your work-life balance. Your spouse could demand some bit of an emotional support from your side, so be prepared to do that. On the other side, my single Gemini audience watching this video, there is a probability that some sort of professional networking, business connections, etc., or even long distance travels could be bringing in some bit of a love angle in your life. Be open to explore those possibilities. After all, Jupiter is coming into your 2nd house. Like, there is some auspicious bit that will always come into picture, but we're talking about Saturn's transit, so I just thought of giving that perspective. From a health standpoint, the 7th aspect is on your 4th house, which means that it is going to be targeting your inner peace and your domestic emotional peace, as well as your heart from a physical sense perspective, your lungs area as well. Now this is where you could see some bit of fluctuations. There will be overwork. You have to look towards your chest related congestion, anxiety issues that could come into picture, again due to sheer work life imbalance. That is a probability that could come into play, and for many of you there could be a burnout of sorts that will be coming into picture. Please figure out a way to follow some bit of a timetable, some bit of a structure, because that is going to be absolutely crucial for you guys. From an education perspective, now from a student audience, I would call out that you have to reread, double check, recheck any kind of answer scripts that you are addressing, any kind of research that you are doing. Saturn is your 8th lord as well. From a higher education perspective, remember this bit. There's a possibility many of you have to reskill, recertify yourself around certain areas. That bit is also going to come under scrutiny. Any kind of thesis that you have written, in kind of examinations that you are appearing for, there could be a high degree of scrutiny of sorts that could be coming into picture. A lot of screening from your mentors, bosses could be coming into picture in terms of reviewing the work that you've done. From a remedy standpoint, I think it may not be a bad idea for you to be offering argha to sun on a regular basis. Doing chanting of Shiva is again a brilliant activity, but at the end of the day, I also talk about practical remedies. Doing service of some sorts. Of course, if you're slogging your ass off at your workplace, that's another story, but bringing in some bit of a community service, doing some bit of volunteering activity, doing something over and above becomes absolutely crucial for you during this phase. If you've enjoyed the insights that I bring to the table, I'll request you to please smash on that like button, subscribe to Dev Astrology. You can always explore to be a member of my channel as well and support me to grow and furnish you with all the quality thought process that I bring to the table. Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Mahadev. Now my Cancer audience, you can watch this both from a Cancer rising, Lagna, as well as Cancer moon sign perspective. Now, for you guys, Saturn rules your seventh house of business partnerships, marriage connections, as well as your eighth house of secrets and longevity. And it is transiting into your ninth house of luck, fortune, destiny, dharma in the nakshatra of Revati. Now, it is aspecting your 11th house, which is your sign of Taurus. It is aspecting your third house, Virgo, and your sixth house, Sagittarius. Very importantly for you, Jupiter will be coming in the Lagna. It will be or in the first house and becoming exalted. So there's a lot of positives from that bit also coming into picture. But we're talking about Saturn's Revati shift here. From a career, job, or business perspective, the seventh lord of public dealing, public interactions, partnerships is in the house of higher wisdom. Now, this is a very good situation to be in, and that too in Revati Nakshatra, which is ruled by Mercury. And this is clearly giving an indication that for my business owner friends, there is a very structured way of finding success for you folks, because it is doing a third shift from itself, coming into the nakshatra of Mercury itself, which likes to do business, which is communicative by nature, and somewhere some sort of foreign collaborations coming into picture. After all, Mercury happens to be your 12th lord as well as your third lord, your own efforts. That is where I'm alluding to business owners first here. Foreign connections coming into picture, foreign collaboration coming into picture, some bit of long haul travel that can trigger something positive for you guys is a very remarkable possibility. Now, this is also giving a very sound indication for people who are self-employed, let's say in the legal domain. If you are doing some bit of attorney kind of work, if you're a lawyer of some sorts, in legal advisor for that matter, consulting in the legal space, you could be doing particularly well in that area as well. There is a very high probability that for people who are in jobs, who are working employed somewhere, any kind of long distance business travel that bring in new possibilities for your career, new customer opportunities coming your way, that is also going to become highly lucrative for you at this point in time. Now, the mainstream roles from a corporate standpoint could feel tad bit slow, but my recommendation for you guys is that push yourself to upgrade your skills, find some way to connect with international audience, with people from faraway lands, find a way to bring in travel, long distance journeys, participating in international conferences and presenting your thought process. Those will be the triggers, that will be the catalyst that will feed in the right opportunities for you to bounce back, or things could seem tad bit slow thanks to the third aspect of Saturn falling into your house of wish fulfillment and gains. Because now Saturn is giving a continuous aspect. You guys could have been sensing this as well. Things are moving a lot slower than you anticipate, or than as you would like. From a finance perspective, the third aspect, as I said, is hitting into your 11th house itself. So incomes will feel reliable, and that is where I feel if you are in a structured business, in a structured job space for that matter, your day-to-day income, your monthly income, your structured reliable sources will not see any kind of disruption, but they will remain completely fixed. Remember, Saturn also is the lord of your 8th house, so it can bring in sudden disruptions and transformation, but I do not see sudden windfall gains coming into picture. Saturn is not the iconic figure to do that, so I do not anticipate. Wealth will come through discipline, it will come through partnerships. Yes, bad news could result into some sort of wealth gains, but I don't think my audience is that sort of an audience who will be happy with negative news coming in the family and then finding some gains, right? So that is why you don't ever see me talking about those areas as well. Again, my recommendation will be to continue to pursue on the ethical endeavors, because that is what is going to give you the right gains coming into life. From a relationships perspective, from a love and marriage perspective, since Saturn happens to be your 7th lord and it is in its final nakshatra. Now this is where it becomes crucial for people who are having any kind of final decision making, last leg of discussions going on with respect to marriage, with respect to elevating your relationship at the final level, taking it to a contractual level of sorts. I anticipate that there is going to be an elevation of sorts coming into picture. There will be a spiritual elevation. There is going to be an elevation in a very profound fashion. Materialization of marriage is highly probable as well for my Cancer audience. Very much viable if you've been looking in that direction. For things that have been stuck for you in that sphere, things that were not moving in that direction, Jupiter's shift and then Saturn's movement into Revati is a positive bit coming into picture from that angle as well. Now, if you are married already, what you will realize is there is going to be an elevation in your relationship as well. There is going to be a spiritual angle of sorts. Like you guys could find yourself aligned to a common purpose, to a larger goal, towards doing something transformative as well. That, hey, baby, let's do this thing in life. Why don't we explore XYZ, right? That sort of a mindset, that camaraderie is going to be coming into picture for you folks. Good sign, I would say. Superficial connections, superficial bonds, if any, are going to face a bit of a stress test. So that is the difficult thing. While mature relationships are going to find that they are going to heal together with a shared connection of sort, a spiritual value, some sort of an ecosystem will come into picture. Now, there could be long distance travel as well. It could be to places of pilgrimages, to somewhere that makes you find peaceful with your spouse, with your partner, with your in your couple journey. So that is something that you might want to keep in mind. Do not just look for exotic holidays. You might just choose to go to that old rustic hotel in a small town place that you visited many years back, or maybe a pilgrimage of sorts that spiritually elevates your connection as well. Highly probable. From a health perspective, the 10th aspect is falling into your 6th house, which protects you from any kind of major diseases, any kind of ailments coming into picture. Jupiter will also be in the lagna. We have to keep that, but I would still give you a warning that be aware of any kind of chronic issues, especially in your hips, thighs, joints, lower back area, that could continue to bother you. You are not going to be stalled with respect to your work, etc., but it can still be giving you some bit of a pain. You'll sail through it eventually. Sailing is not the most appropriate word, but yeah, I mean, you're gonna navigate through it eventually, but be mindful of those areas. Maybe just putting a exercise regimen is not a bad idea. For my student audience, from an education perspective, this is a phenomenal period for higher education, specifically people who are into political studies, in philosophical sciences, in doing any kind of legal defense. In fact, if you are in some sort of research work as well, and you are in the last leg of your education, about to coast through it, good time. Your mind is going to be grasping very complex, difficult, complex concepts as well at this point in time. So good bit from that perspective. Now, from a remedies perspective, this is going to be a good time for you to, offer something to elders, to spiritual figures, to somebody who deals in philosophy, or who sets the principle and value system for you, your family. Maybe just donating something, offering them something, whatever you deem suitable, necessary in their lives. That is going to be an extremely great remedy. Now, those person can be, your fatherly figure, your father himself, teachers, gurus, mentors, a priest, whatever that you can think of. Doing some sort of service, or gifting them something that could be of need, is going to be one of the best activities that you can do. If you've enjoyed the insights and the thought process that I bring to the table, this is the most opportune time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to the Astrology. Maybe if you're already subscribed, consider joining me as a member on my channel as well. It really supports me in my growth. I will be extremely thankful if you consider doing that, and keep watching me. Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Mahadev. Now, Leos, you can of course watch this both from a Leo Lagna rising as well as Leo moon sign standpoint. Of course, for you Leos, Saturn rules your 6th house of enemies and debts, and your 7th house of business partnership, marriage, everything opposing you in this world. And Saturn is definitely not the Yoga Karaka planet for you folks. It is traversing through your 8th house. That Ashtam Shani bit is coming into picture now in Revati Nakshatra. Saturn, of course, is giving an aspect to your 10th house in the sign of Taurus, 2nd house into the sign of Virgo, and 5th house into the sign of Sagittarius. Lord of whom Jupiter is coming into exaltation. Good bit for you. Now, let's understand the life areas that are getting impacted for you folks. From a career business standpoint, job perspective, what you see is that sort of a difficult, heavy, transformative audit of sorts coming into picture. Saturn is in the last leg. The third aspect from here is falling into your 10th house itself. And this is where I would want you to be careful, because some bit of office politics, somebody younger than you, somebody who's junior to you, or at least younger looking than you, could be playing something very intense, some sort of a clever back bitching sort of a situation, or maybe just creating competing scenarios with you. Those kind of things are going to come into place. This is also possible that you could see change in management, leadership, bosses coming into place for you folks in your company, wherever you are operating. So just be very mindful of that sort of a situation, because remember, Saturn happens to be your Maraka as well. It is your 7th lord. So it traversing into into the 8th house and then giving an aspect towards your 10th is creating some difficult situations, some challenging situations for you in your workplace. The important bit is you will have to continue working behind the scenes. You will have to focus yourself into research, deep analytics of some sorts. When I say deep analytics, not necessarily means that you have to set up a Looker instant using GCP and create dashboards and stuff. It's not about, sorry if I'm getting too technical, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's not about analyzing the facts and figures and number crunching. It could also be reflecting about your own career, work, profession, your day-to-day activities, how you are approaching your career, and then figuring out things from a corporate standpoint. This is going to be crucial for you to figure out if you can see something from a tax compliance perspectives as well. It's important, and I cannot emphasize enough, I will not recommend any of you creating new confrontations, any kind of difficult argumentative situations with your superiors, bosses, leaderships, with your fatherly figure as well for that matter. Be careful on that front. Now, this doesn't mean everything is negative. Saturn from here is giving an aspect to the 10th into the final nakshatra, which means that this is a phase where you could start determining what is right and wrong for you. Many of you could be taking big leap of faith, changing your course of career direction altogether, and that probability in terms of swinging from a job to a business, from business to a job, or both juggling with multiple things altogether in terms of a long shot, at least in this phase, is highly probable. So it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult to navigate things, but you've got to wear that armor and show you who I am. I'm thinking of that song by Sia, right? So exactly, you've got to motivate yourself that what you can achieve, what you could do next, how you can push yourself to the next level, because that's exactly what Saturn is going to propagate you to do as well. It is after all your 6th lord as well, so it is going to help you put up that fight. Now, from a finance perspective, the 7th aspect is falling onto your 2nd house itself. Bank balance triggers a major financial evaluation of sorts, some sort of a shift with respect to your unearned wealth, inheritances, insurance related payouts that have been stuck for a while, maybe for multiple years, can suddenly see some bit of a settlement. Any kind of property, real estate issues that have not been working out. While Saturn in Revati now in that last leg might give that opportunity for you to settle down those things. However, it is 4th from the 5th, so please do not be going about making any kind of speculative trading. The interest for you is going to be immense. Oh my gosh, you guys are going to be spotting opportunities. You might think about it, not invest, and then you see that there is a rise or a fall in that stock like you anticipated, but the moment you dive into it, it just doesn't work out. So be extremely cautious with respect to your speculative habits, day trading sort of activities. But if there is a strategic, researched, well analyzed effort, my gosh, all the trading these days is being done by AI bots. I don't know what we humans have a role to play in that space, but still, for people who are good with it, I'm not into day trading. I'm a value investor. So if you're still into that, please be very careful. That is the warning that I'm going to be throwing out there. From a relationships, love and marriage perspective, your seventh lord is eclipsed in the eighth house of secrets. So this is a tricky situation to be in, because your insecurities about your relationship with your partner, in your marriage, in your relationship itself, any kind of unsaid fears, any kind of past marital situations, with respect to finance or otherwise, they will be audited. Okay. And that is why it is going to be extremely crucial that if there is a negative repercussion that comes your way, if there's nothing bad from a karma perspective that you've done, there's nothing to fear. You can just skip and move forward 30 seconds. But if there have been challenges in your relationships, there have been issues with respect to your side of things as well, be ready to have that dialogue, be ready to have that open communication coming into place, because those issues will be out up in the open. And I think being transparent, taking responsibility, opening up on such matters is going to become crucial. You've got to be dealing with your partner, with your spouse, with absolute transparency during this phase. Any kind of hidden agenda, any kind of hidden strategy, it's a marker for you guys. Saturn will expose it. So just be careful on that front, guys. From a health perspective, I think I've warned before as well. High alert. Saturn is in the eighth. Any kind of chronic matters, hereditary issues that have been coming in from father's side, from mother's side for that matter as well, digestive issues, lower back related troubles coming into picture, any of those things can suddenly surface. Some bit of accidental possibilities are also coming into picture. I just can recommend you to be careful, guys. You see, I have not been massaging my hand for a while. Most of you who've been watching my channel, you knew about 2 years back, I announced on my channel that there is a risk that I could have an accidental situation. I had seen it in my chart with my Antardesha of Rahu. And I did all my precautions. Like, I had upgraded my Tesla for a full service driving, and I was taking precautions while taking shower, while climbing down the stairs. And one of the evenings, I was playing a floodlight match under the lights, cricket, and that season ball with one of the very good bowlers. It just hit me twice at the same place, and I broke my fingers. The point I'm trying to make is, you've got to be in high alert, but whatever has to happen has happened. Just doesn't mean that you end up screwing up your peace as well. I'm speaking with experience out here, but it's my responsibility to give you that message so that if you can diminish the impact of it, the repercussions of that, you must take due measures to do. So be careful on that front. Do not be intoxicated in driving. Of course, you should never be, but the point I'm trying to make is, be ultra careful. It is just going to help. Doing some bit of a donation, giving it, something out with respect to your blood donation activities may not be a bad idea as well for you to consider. For my student audience watching this video, well, this is going to be an exceptional period for your research work, anything related to occult sciences as well. For people who are interested in astrology and stuff, great time for that. Great time for your data and forensic, related deep dive as well coming into picture. Now, as I said, with respect to your remedies, with respect to the caveats that we could take care of, my suggestion is, please come across clean with respect to your taxes, clean with respect to compliance, clean with respect to your joint assets, either with your spouse or with your partner. Be transparent. Do not be engaging in speculation of any sorts. That's not going to be helpful, and maybe bringing a certain degree of spirituality when it's a matter of Saturn entering into the 8th house. Doing Hanuman Chalisa, Bajrang Baan is going to be extremely helpful for you folks. Now, if you've enjoyed the insights and the thought process that I bring to the table, this is the best time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dev Astrology, maybe even consider being a member of my channel, and keep watching. Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Mahadev. So my Virgo guys, you can watch this both from a Virgo Lagna rising as well as Virgo moon sign perspective. All right. Now for you guys, Saturn rules your 5th house of intellect and creativity, as well as your 6th house of service, debt, and daily struggles. whereas it is transiting into your 7th house of marriage and public image in the Revati Nakshatra. Now, from here, it is giving an aspect into your 9th house of Taurus, your 1st house, your Lagna into Virgo, as well as your 4th house of Sagittarius. Of course, Lord of whom is coming into exaltation pretty soon, but we're talking about Saturn into Revati here. So from a life areas that are going to be impacted for you folks, beginning with your career, job and business scheme of things, you see your house of daily service is reflecting into your house of business partnerships. What does this mean? You are going to experience in your day-to-day activities at your workplace, in your jobs, that clients are expecting flawless work out of you. Your repute, your respect, your acceptance, your receival into the world is going to be with respect to the rigor that you are bringing on a day-to-day basis. And more importantly, it is going to bring about some bit of a shift in you. It is going to bring about some bit of a change. I see a very strong possibility, depending on the dignity of Mercury and Saturn in your chart, that many of you could be getting into new scheme of things. You could be shifting, pivoting yourself from your job into business kind of a situation, getting started with some sort of a side hustle, getting in connection with new job opportunities, maybe of sorts, with respect to a new clientele, maybe working for your client directly from your job perspective. That sort of a shift is coming into picture, and there is a possibility of a very a different kind of a creative pursuit, or some sort of a change with respect to your own intelligence, your own creativity that you are going to bring to the table right now during this phase itself. So this period becomes hyper crucial. However, there's a possibility that if you get into any kind of new legal contracts, review them. See, Saturn is in Revati, that of Mercury. And Virgos, yes, it is your 10th lord as well as your Lagna lord, your first lord for that matter. But it will require you to see that those new contracts are binding for you, not in a negative sense. So just don't rely on, I'm sorry, there's a smirk on my face because I see so many people relying on all these AI solutions, the GPTs of the world that have been launched by, and they are fabulous products, fabulous solutions. I have no doubt about the quality of what they can do in future. But seriously taking decisions, life critical decisions based on astrology sometimes, but leaning on an AI tool, or even on legal matters, people are simply uploading the documents and expecting a legal counsel, expecting a medical counsel out of those tools itself. That's something to rethink. And the point is that please invest into getting a proper legal counsel. If you get into that new business situation, please do not save some dollars, some money in this regard, or else it could cost you heavy. It's going to be a worthwhile investment, guys. Saturn has moved into the 9th, so that is going to be critical. Business reputation is going to require intense amount of hard work during this phase. Saturn in the 7th from a business standpoint is not a bad situation to be in. I'm okay with that. Even for people who are in job and work position, it's not a bad shift at all for Saturn. It's just that either it is going to indicate a very hard fought project, very hard fought battle in your workplace, or is it going to indicate some bit of an ending, some bit of a shift, challenge, new beginning of sorts during this phase of Saturn's transit in Revati. Consider that. Remember, Jupiter is also into exaltation. Mars has come out of its combustion. Bunch of things are happening in the sky, in the cosmic space out there. Saturn is going to be playing its role, but everything has to come in conjunction. And this is just transits. Your natal is going to give you a much deeper analysis and better insight for that matter. From a finance perspective, mostly things look stable, but your wealth is directly tied to your legal settlements, partnerships, and resolving old client issues, which means that if you are in a business situation, again, my indication, as I was saying earlier, with any kind of legal matters, trying to save money on that front may not be the best approach. You will have to figure out ways to evaluate the contracts. Saturn is into the house of business, so I cannot stop myself talking about it. Again, you might consider this from your spousal relationship, from your marital relationship, joint assets perspective too. And if you're thinking from that angle, may not be a bad idea to leverage, whatever benefits your company provides you if you're an employee, and see if you can do something maybe along with your spouse. Go and see that whatever property you guys have purchased together, whatever assets that you're building together, there is a definitive safeguard in place for you folks from that angle as well. That will become hyper crucial. Now, the third aspect is falling into your ninth house. There is definitively some bit of cost involved, because I see you guys doing long distance travels, and it will require high documentation as well, which means there's a very strong possibility many of you could be looking for foreign travels, travels into far destinations, for holidays, for work related situations as well. Saturn is safeguarding your house of wealth, your fourth house as well, Virgos. It's not in a bad situation. Plus Jupiter is getting into a good place there, so that's a phenomenally good situation to get into. And therefore I see that from your assets perspective, you look good in this phase. From a relationships standpoint, love or marriage situation, well, the seventh aspect is a direct gaze on you. It is coming on your physical body, your mind, etc. So your spouse during this phase will come across like a mirror. They will be your critic, and it's not a bad thing to happen. This is the time, Virgos, you've got to take some bit of criticism. It is in Revati Nakshatra now, so they are going to give you the criticism in the way you like to take it, in the way, or rather I should say, in the way you are habitual to criticize them. So you are going to get a taste, a flavor of your own medicine for that matter, and sometimes it tastes delicious, medicine tasting delicious. All right, so that bit is coming into picture, but there will be a lot of practicality. Listen to their heed. It is not a bad feedback coming your way. You could feel a sudden sense of responsibility as well. You could feel a lot of spiritual level, depth, or spiritual level of elevated level of responsibility in your marriage. Responsibility is going to be there, but there is going to be an elevation of sorts also coming in marriage. It's a very, very good thing. It's definitely a positive situation to be in. For my single audience, Virgos, there is a probability you might end up attracting somebody who's extremely serious by nature, maybe young looking, but very serious, very mature, somebody who is not looking for a short-term fling, but more of a long-term commitment. That's a good partner to have. Marriage-oriented partners, not one-night stands. That is not something which is supported with Saturn's placement here. Will not support you in the long run as well. So remember that Saturn is the lord of your fifth house as well, and it is placed in the seventh. It's in the last leg. Good opportunity to convert your romance into marriage. Saturn will propagate and support you in that sphere as well. So again, very positive bit there. And remember, Jupiter will also be giving the aspect. So it's a very good time for people to get married as well in the near future. From a health standpoint, physical fatigue is a given. You could feel extremely tired. Maybe even mental anxiety could be coming into picture. Saturn is directly giving its gaze to the Lagna, as I was alluding earlier. Now, this could be related to your partnerships. It could be related to relationships, but it could be generally related to your Dasha Antar and your physical habits and stuff. Please be watchful of that. Please be watching out on your kidneys, your lower back area, or your UTI sort of situations coming into picture. For my student audience trying to understand the educational situation, your fifth lord and your sixth lord is in the last leg in Revati Nakshatra in the Pisces situation. This is a good situation. It's giving an aspect back. You are going to be doing pretty well if you're in the space of accounting, legal representation of sorts. Competitive examinations look absolutely good. Technology, research, all those areas look quite prominent. Slogging yourself for long hours, burning the midnight oil, that seems to be extremely probable for you folks. Now, last but not the least, when it comes to remedies here, I think the practical bit is try and remain grounded, try and remain humble. That is what Saturn is going to be teaching you. It is all about bringing in that political correctness, that diplomacy into place in your partnerships, in your relationships with people that you are dealing at a social circle. And from a spiritual standpoint, doing Vishnu Sahasranam may not be a bad idea at all. Now, if you've enjoyed watching this video and you love the insights that I bring to the table, then smash on that like button, subscribe to Dev Astrology. If you are a subscriber, maybe consider upgrading yourself to the membership as well. Keep watching me on Dev Astrology. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Libras, you can watch this both from a Libra Lagna, rising, or Libra moon sign perspective. Now, for you guys, Saturn happens to be a premier Yoga Karaka planet for that matter. It happens to be ruling your 4th house of domestic peace, knowledge, understanding your assets, as well as your 5th house of romance and creativity. And it is transiting in your 6th house of, debts, enemies, diseases, whatnot. It is in Revati Nakshatra, but very importantly, from here it is giving an aspect to your 8th house in the sign of Taurus, your 12th house into the sign of Virgo, and your 3rd house, Sagittarius, Jupiter, coming into exaltation. Let's understand what's happening from a career, business, job perspective. This is a time where you could feel as if you are peerless, because such a strong Shatruhanta Yoga coming into picture. I have been calling this out for my Libra audience, that you guys are coming across like a problem-solving machine during this phase. But now is the time where, Saturn entering into the Revati Nakshatra is also going to give you stupendous amount of, smartness. It's getting into the nakshatra of Mercury, which happens to be your 9th lord. Of course, the dignity of Saturn and Mercury is hyper crucial for us to decode this. But it's also important that in this phase, it's getting into a good situation into the nakshatra of your 9th lord, which means that you could be absolutely crushing your enemies. You could be, your grit, your ability to overcome complex situations at your workplace, in your job, in your day-to-day activities for that matter, whatever you're trying to accomplish is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I cannot emphasize on this fact that Saturn's transit throughout Pisces across the nakshatras is especially positive for you folks, Libras. It's also important that that you leverage this leg of Saturn transit to clear any kind of backlogs that you guys are facing in your life. So if you feel that there is a lot of stuff left for you to do, you will not be leaving any stone unturned at this point in time. You could be optimizing your day-to-day activities, your schedule, logistics for that matter, that you've got to handle during this phase. So again, phenomenal time from all those areas standpoint. From a business perspective as well, I see for my Libra audience, there's a very high probability, and Libras, you guys are naturally good when it comes to business, doing something of your own, running your own gig. This is a time where I feel that if you wanna close on something very complex that has been challenging you, that has been bothering you for a while with respect to your work, it's an opportune time for you to do it. You'll be very meticulous. Luck is going to be favoring you at this time as well. So make full use of this opportunity coming in your way. Then, and we've already talked about Jupiter's exaltation, guys. So we've talked as to how it's going to be impacting the 1, 4, 7, 10, Libra being in the Kendra situation itself, and Jupiter coming into that 10th. I don't want to touch and hijack that discussion. I will be doing Jupiter's exaltation separately, but you must remember that as to how you can leverage this time, guys, for your ultimate growth. Then from a finance perspective, it's going to be an excellent situation for you to be restructuring any kind of loans, any kind of debt that you have inherited or you've been carrying for a long time. If you've not had a chance to address that bit all this while, guys, this is the time for you to be cleaning out your long-standing debts definitively. The third aspect is falling on your 8th house, which means that if there are any funds which have been stuck, if there are money matters, old property related issues, inheritance related matters, something that has not been selling off, ancestral properties that have been giving issues, all those areas, family disputes for that matter, legal disputes coming in that space, joint finances with your spouse, with your partner, those areas, or stuff which has been activating difficulties with your in-laws as well, especially with respect to finance. I see there is a strong possibility of the dust settling down in those areas for you guys. From He's had food and stuff, and still he's just calling out for me. He's not happy that I'm sitting and recording late in the evening. Gosh. From a relationship standpoint, for love and marriage situation, Saturn happens to be the lord of your fifth house as well. As I said, it's a yoga Karaka planet for you folks. So the lord of the fifth house is now in the house of sixth, which means casual dating, one night stands, and flings, etc., are going to be losing their charm during this phase. This is not the most opportune period. Saturn is something that you cannot really expect. Pisces is still very romantic by nature. In fact, Pisces is a sign where Venus comes into its deepest exaltation somewhere around 23-27 degrees, if I remember my numbers correctly. So it's in the nakshatra of Revati itself where this happens. So it's a nakshatra of romance and beauty, and the final upheaval. But you can't expect that for Saturn to be doing it. So guys, this is where you might lose some charm if you are playing in that sort of a game. But if it's about long haul, if it is about maturing your relationship, there could be some bit of difficulties also coming into picture. So be open to that, because after all, Saturn is in the house of disputes. Now, there's a possibility that if everything is going well, then there could be some temporary distance as well that could be coming in, either with your romantic partner, or if you're a parent watching this video, with your children as well, because of your daily regimen, because of your job. New job opportunity could be coming up. That probability is very high. I just forgot to mention on the career side of things, Saturn in Revati in the last leg can bring new career opportunities for many of you. And this is the time, Libras. Many of you Libras have taken consultation from me and have asked me, when is the pivot? Now the time is coming in. So I hope the message is clear. You don't have to come for another consultation. I've given you some indication. That probability will come into picture. Focus on practical, silent support towards your family members than, any kind of grand gestures. Saturn likes service. So in your relationship, in your marriage, in your connections, bring service orientedness. That is going to go a long distance when bringing too much jazz into situations. From a health standpoint, I think you will be able to conquer any kind of health health issues, chronic issues, especially coming into picture, with your own strict diet, your military-like discipline, if I may say. Many of you could be following that charter, waking up in the morning, having XYZ water. I keep on listening. I consume different kinds of water and stuff. So, those kind of things, that discipline, hitting the gym, doing yoga and whatnot, those activities, going out for a swim, a brisk morning walk, early morning walk. Guys, I promise to you that I will be making those kind of good habits. I've inculcated them in myself as well. I'm not a Libra, but I'm trying to draw the connections out here. Libras, you guys are definitely going to be doing good on that front. So I anticipate good habits continuing actually in your case. The bit that you will have to be careful is Saturn is in Revati. So any kind of nervous system issues, skin related issues, psoriasis, eczema, those kind of matters could bother you for a while. So be watchful if you've had issues in those areas. For my student audience, great time if you are in the space of medicine, law, civil services, preparing for audit kind of roles, CFA, CPA, CA kind of preparation of examinations, trying to clear competitive examinations. Extremely good time. If you put in your sheer hard work, you should be able to navigate quite strongly. Now, before we end, from a remedies perspective, I want to call out one of the most practical activities you could do is feed dogs, stray dogs. My buddy is calling me. I got to check him on as well. He's just had food. I don't know why he wants me today. But donate something to animals. Dogs, of course, that is written in our ancient scriptures, but any kind of activity towards animals is going to be extremely helpful and positive for you. Or else you could also consider giving food to maybe the blue collared employees, somebody who's working under you. either on a Saturday or any other day that you find it possible. Maybe on a Tuesday as well may not be a bad idea. So, support people with food, take them out for lunch, and things like that. They are going to be extremely positive impact in your life. Now, folks, if you've enjoyed watching this video, this is the best time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dave Astrology. If you're already a subscriber, then consider being a member to my channel as well and support me in the growth of the channel. Thanks for watching. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Scorpios. You can watch this both from a Scorpio Lagna rising as well as moon sign perspective. Now for you guys, Saturn happens to be the ruler of your third house, of your hard work, effort, courage, as well as your fourth house, which denotes your mental peace, emotional satisfaction, your assets. And it has transit into the fifth house, in the house of creativity, romance, and intellect. Now, important bit for us to remember is it is in the last chapter of the nakshatra, from where it is giving an aspect to your seventh house in the sign of Taurus, 11th house into Virgo, and second house in the sign of Sagittarius, Lord of whom is coming into exaltation. Let's understand from a career, job, business perspective, what you will realize is that your fourth Lord of inner peace is in the house of creative intelligence, which means that your business ideas, your creative pursuits, your intelligence is going to be coming to the fore. It is going to require deep test of sorts, but a mathematical test before launch. What do I mean by that? If you are in a business, you will have to relook into the numbers. You will have to re-evaluate your thought process with respect to the modeling that you have done with respect to the structure in which you want to go ahead. And without that financial modeling, without that numerical analysis, you are not going to find success in your day-to-day job. If you are working employed under somebody, if you are not breaking down your day-to-day activities in terms of the hours, in terms of the productivity that you're bringing against the number of the lines of code you're writing or the number of patients you're treating or whatever work you do, if you're not numerical in your approach, if you're not number driven in your approach, if you're not analytical in your approach, it is going to be difficult, because Saturn in the fifth house is Panoti. It's not an easy transit. It has not been an easy transit with Saturn in Pisces for my Scorpio audience. But guys, when it has come into Revati Nakshatra, then it is giving the possibility that if you are bringing that mathematical side of you to the front, you are going to do well with respect to your job as well as your business. The seventh aspect of Saturn is falling into your 11th house of gains, which is again the sign of Virgo ruled by Mercury. And it is the same nakshatra, Revati, in which Saturn is transiting right now. So this is a time where you are going to find in your professional network who are your fake friends and who are genuinely going to stand up for you, leaving you behind with stable, profitable, or profit yielding connections for that matter. So I don't want to say profitable connections, but the connections are going to bring in certain gains, and that filtration process, that screening process is going to become absolutely clear. In fact, there's also a strong possibility that right now, or the phase from which Saturn has moved into the Revati Nakshatra, there will be an improved screening of sorts, numerical screening of sorts, that is going to come into picture with respect to your gains. I missed calling out the bit on the third aspect of Saturn. See, it is falling into your seventh house. Yes, it will impact your relationships, but it is also your business, as well as it is the market in front of you, even from a job standpoint. So there is a challenge. There is going to be, a continuous scrutiny of what you are able to do, what you are able to deliver. But guys, it also becomes important if you are navigating it from a pure number, mathematical standpoint, in terms of how many thoughts, how many ideas, how many XYZ I have to present to the larger world for my business, in my job, then you are going to see an improvement, a success of sorts coming into picture. The good part is, even when Saturn is in Revati, the aspect of Jupiter will be coming into picture, because the Lord of it is going to be giving a ninth aspect. So that's a very positive bit which is coming into picture here. From a finance perspective, I think you could come across highly conservative, but at the same time you will be structured. I think gambling mindset would not be there. I missed out on, oh my gosh, I really missed out on some big bets, and I could have multiplied my investments big time around, but I did not want to be, I try to practice what I preach here, guys. So I did not want to be speculative, gambling oriented in my investment strategies. The US markets have done phenomenally well, and I took a much risk averse position. My rest of the portfolio has done pretty well. But the point I'm trying to make here is that this is a time from a finance perspective. You've got to remain structured, you've got to remain diligent, and you've got to be a bit conservative as well. Saturn is not going to like any kind of speculation, but it is coming in Revatis, and therefore the calculation has to be there. The reflection of understanding those P ratios, understanding how the fundamentals could be shifting, understanding how the oil prices etc. could be giving an impact in terms of the yield, in terms of the bond rates, mortgage rates etc. is going to be impacting you. Having a sense of that, and not just picking about, okay, I like any mini power, I'm going to just put the money in one place. That's not going to be working. So in financial side of the things, you've got to be structured, you've got to be planned. And if you do that, remember, the second lord is coming into exaltation, fifth lord is coming into exaltation. Good situation for you, Scorpio. So remember, that is going to be positive. The 10th aspect of Saturn is falling on the second house of your bank savings, which is not bad in a way, because here it is going to block your ability to make any kind of reckless, impulsive luxury purchases. Wealth is going to grow slowly, but it will be safe for you. You will prefer a low risk environment to be in, and you are going to prefer long-term bets during the course of this activity. Again, I personally do not follow that. And my recommendation also here would be, as an astrologer, as an internet friend, I'm not giving an advice here. It's not a financial advice, but stay safe from speculative day trading, especially in the world of AI, where I don't know, the bots are doing a major bit of heavy lifting. I don't know what humans are going to do in that space, but stay away from speculation with respect to day trading, because that can backfire. Now, from a love, relationships, marriages perspective, the third aspect is targeting your 7th house of marriage itself. So if you are single, romance is going to be slow. It is going to be extremely karmic, and yes, there could be a possibility of it brewing into a positive relationship, not because of Saturn. Saturn is going to keep a check, and it is going to keep you honest on that front, but it'll be more so because of Jupiter. We'll talk about that in the next video. But if you are married, this is a time where you will have to come up and show tremendous amount of maturity. That maturity could be with respect to your spouse, it could be your joint finances, it could be with respect to your children, their education and their behavioral growth as well. So you are going to monitor all of that stuff. Ego clashes must be kept on a check. Silly jokes, or making a not so thoughtful remark towards your spouse, or reacting too much on anything coming in from your partner, from your spouse, can be detrimental. From a romance perspective, I would say that Saturn is not into flings, it is not into short-term romance. It wants something deep, slow, but my single audience, you could end up attracting somebody who's either younger to you or younger looking, but very mature, very deep thinker at heart. So that is going to be a crucial bit coming into picture. From a health standpoint, be watchful with respect to stomach related acidity, indigestion sort of issues. They could be bothering you. Liver congestion is also going to be creating some bit of a mental worry, so be watchful on that front. Check on your diet. Check a simple activity in terms of balancing your diet is going to be very helpful. For my student audience, from an education standpoint, it is going to be an exceptional period, especially for people who are into coding, into deep research of some thoughts, engineering kind of professions, law, legal professions, all of those areas, you are going to see some good growth. Mathematical analysis, inducing numbers into your life, accounting sort of professions are again going to see some good growth coming in your life as well. Now, last but not the least, Scorpios, I would, highly recommend that, since Saturn is in your fifth house, which can at times create a mental block. Oh my gosh, sometimes it feels as if I'm short of ideas, or only traditional thought processes, traditional ideas are coming to my head. Nothing transformative in the world of AI to shift things dramatically. But that is how it is going to be. So it's important to bring spiritual remedy. Doing Hanuman Chalisa is going to be extremely positive for you folks at this point in time. Maybe bringing in some activity where you spend time with your kids, teaching them something classical, something old, something ancient, maybe reading past stories, etc., is going to give you triggers as well. Draw knowledge from the ancient sciences and then see that what you can do in the modern era to transform things. That is why I started by revisiting BPHS again today, and I was looking into my Dasha system and trying to analyze what better can be done. We've got to be learner at all our times. Now folks, if you enjoy watching me and you love the insights that I bring to the table here, this is the best time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dave Astrology. If you're a subscriber already, consider upgrading yourself to be a member of my channel and keep watching me. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Alright, so my Sagittarius audience, you can watch this both from a Sagittarius rising Lagna as well as Sagittarius moon sign perspective. Now, for you folks, Saturn rules your second house of wealth accumulation as well as your third house of hard work, courage, and efforts, and it is transiting into your fourth house. So this is the phase of Shani Dhaya or Ardh Shani that is going on, especially from a Sagittarius moon sign perspective. And in the Revati Nakshatra, what you will find is that with Saturn's transit here, it is giving an aspect into your sixth house in the sign of Taurus, 10th house in the sign of Virgo, which is again ruled by Mercury, who's the ruler of Revati Nakshatra, and your first house Lagna, Lord of whom is coming into exaltation. So good news there. Now, from a career, job, or business perspective, what you will realize here is that the seventh aspect is hitting in your 10th house of career with absolute precision. This is important. Saturn here is going to be demanding maximum structural accountability at your workplace from your side. And the important bit is that your 10th house is ruled by Mercury itself. It is the same nakshatra lord in which Saturn is transiting. What you will observe here is that Saturn will expect you to be meticulous. Saturn is going to expect you to be calculative, to be number driven, to be oriented with respect to practicality, negotiations coming into picture. All of these things, if you never considered a part and parcel of the game plan in your workplace, in your business, in your job, well, it is going to change now, because that is exactly what would be required. Or there could be circumstances such that you will have to up your game in these areas. You'll have to put effort in these areas. You'll have to acquire knowledge to be very sharp with respect to numbers. I've seen so many people doing very good with respect to their creative thought process in terms of bringing in the right strategy, but when they have to talk numbers, they just fumble around. They don't know the right strategy to follow, and that's exactly what Saturn is going to demand you at this point in time. Now, this is a time where your customers, your bosses, your clients could expect you to stabilize your projects as well. The engagements in which you are working, either in your business or in your job, some degree of stability is going to be required or expected, anticipated from the market. However, there's also a strong possibility that Saturn being in Revati in almost that final cycle, the last leg, the end of the tunnel that I've been alluding to earlier, might indicate for many of you to find your peace with a job change, with a new role, with a new business service, with a new solution, with a new client for that matter. So many of you could be eyeing that as well. Working from home or if you are dealing in, let's say, real estate kind of things with infrastructure kind of projects, or Saturn sort of industries, agriculture, IT for that matter, HR consulting, people related businesses, all those areas you could see long-term gains coming into picture with the seeds that you sow right now. I keep repeating, Saturn is going to be bringing shifts of sorts. It is going to be bringing new beginnings post the endings. And therefore, with this shift in your coming in your fourth house, many of you will reflect upon that change onto yourself as well, because Saturn's aspect is falling on your lagna, not just on your 10,000 6th house. So be mindful of that bit too. Now, from a finance perspective, what you guys would notice is that wealth can get heavily tied to your domestic arena, which means your real estate portfolio, your old financial liabilities could be coming into picture that you might have to clear off. This means clearing off debt of some sort that has been long pending. Guys, it may not be a bad idea, or many of you might actually take a judgment call with everything that is happening in the economy right now, with the oil prices getting impacted, with the mortgage rates, with the treasury bonds shifting from one direction to another. We see the kind of pressure that is coming down on retail investors as well, and you might make a judgment call in terms of addressing your debts, addressing your financial liabilities during this point of time. A very meticulous accounting is going to be required before you invest into property, land, vehicles, any kind of heavy machinery equipment. Not before doing a financial analysis, financial re-engineering of sorts. You must get into those matters. So you must either leverage that expertise by yourself, go out and connect with the right expert to get their opinion, because in Revati, that meticulous thought process is going to be extremely crucial. And I think if you do the right financial engineering, re-engineering, then you will find a lot of peace eventually by the time Saturn moves out of this placement. From a love and relationships perspective, the second lord of your family is sitting in your of the kutumb, so to speak, is sitting in your house of home, in your fourth house, in your place of domestic peace. So somewhere or the other, there could be a shift that could be coming into picture in your life. I think many of you will see that there will be final decision making with respect to some property disputes, property disagreements, ancestral property settlement, etc. coming into picture. Many of you will be heading towards this direction. There could be some bit of an emotional upheaval, emotional unburdening of sorts that could also come into picture with your maternal figures. Yes, there is a probability that it will start with a dispute. There could be a friction like situation coming into picture, but eventually it will get either closed, either it will be sorted, or it will be an emotional closure to it. Like there will be, and that depends on the strength of Saturn or Mercury in your birth chart, the dignity of the same. But it could go either ways. It could go in terms of a sudden end to it. Okay, chapter closed, we are not in talking terms, this is it, this is the closure, we are ending the dispute. Or it could be like, oh my gosh, why the hell did we not discuss this earlier, and why did we have to drag it all this while? But that closure will come into picture. Now, in what direction, in what space, that depends on the dignity of your chart. So that seems to be coming into picture for many of you. Then you will also realize that this is a time where from a relationship standpoint, you could feel an audit of sorts coming in from your family members as well, as to what have you been offering, what have you been doing, or what have they been bringing to the table. Some bit of analysis, some bit of a crunching of numbers and seeing what sort of resources do I have. Remember, I had talked about the Nakshatra Lord Pushan itself. It talks about like a shepherd bringing things into order. So you could work with your family in terms of in a very dutiful fashion, in a foundational dutiful fashion, to say that okay, we've got to work on our assets, figure out what are the numbers looking like, and do we need to do something, do we need to consolidate all of it. Those kind of decisions, estate planning, will planning, etc., could come into picture for many of you. You will do a balance sheet audit of sorts of your properties, of your assets through this phase, and take some sort of a final call as to what you should be doing. Should I be discarding some of my assets, some of my properties, consolidating them? Those kind of decisions will be coming into picture in conjunction with your family, in conjunction with your relationships. Be mindful of that bit as well. Now, I have not touched upon the retrograde aspect, which is going to impact the romantic bit. Once Saturn gets retrograded, which is going to be in the month of July, I think I'm going to come up with a video. So we are going to touch upon that bit at that point in time. Now, from a health perspective, what I will recommend is please be watchful with respect to tightness in your chest, palpitations in your heart, some bit of an overthinking, deep thinking situations, maybe getting very philosophical of sorts, which makes you stressed out at times. All those things can come into picture. There could be physical tiredness, restlessness also coming into play, thanks to the aspects, because it is in the last leg, into the last nakshatra of this cycle. It might actually drag things and it might make things difficult with respect to the physical plane coming into picture. Try and keep everything clutter free, your home, your thoughts, your emotions, for that matter. For my student audience, well, this is a time where you've got to be isolating yourself from the rest of the world. Go into a self-study mode. This is a time where you've got to put in your own hard work. Please define the boundaries. Don't be wasting your time with people. A lot of student audience in the other rashis and lagnas have had much better predictions. For you guys, my suggestion is Sagittarius, be involved with yourself. Your Lagna Lord is coming into exaltation. That's a good thing. Okay, but immerse yourself in self-study, self-learning, self-transformation from a study standpoint. The remedy that I would want to call out here is that with Saturn in the placement here, maybe just using saffron kesar either in consumption or putting a tika, a tilak on your forehead throughout this period is going to be extremely positive. And I'm giving this more in connection with Jupiter for you folks, because if you do that, doing that on your forehead, Saturn's impact also is going to diminish, reduce a bit. Doing some kind of a charitable activity within your home, act of service within your family members, for the elders, older people in your family, is going to be another excellent activity. Now, if you've enjoyed watching this video and the insights that I bring to the table, this is the most opportune time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dev Astrology, maybe even consider upgrading yourself to being a member of my channel. It will be extremely grateful situation for me to grow my presence here on YouTube. Continue to watch me on YouTube on Dev Astrology. Om Namah Shivaya. Har Har Mahadev. Capricorn. For you, Saturn happens to be your Lagna Lord as well as the Lord of the second house, and it is transiting into the third house in Revati Nakshatra. Now, Revati is ruled by Mercury, which is what I keep reminding you folks, because Saturn is going to be giving an aspect towards the sign of Virgo in your 9th house. It aspects your 5th house in Taurus as well as your 12th house in Sagittarius. To understand the impact of this shift, let's look into the career, maybe job and business related opportunities coming your way. Your Lagna Lord is in the 3rd house of self-effort, and that is where it is coming into the nakshatra ruled by Mercury, which is clearly indicating that this is a time where you've got to be focused entirely on your own skills. And by skills here, I mean anything that talks about your communication, be it oral or written form. It's a time where you will have to either work towards it or you will be able to showcase the best of your abilities in this sphere. Your negotiation ability, your ability to bring in financial re-engineering, mathematical analysis, practical, analytical mindset with respect to what you can do in different forms at your workplace, for your work for that matter, is going to be tested. So be, your entire, let's say, professional survival of sorts will be dependent. Your own hard work, your own effort in this direction is going to become hyper crucial. Then it is also going to be a brilliant time for you to execute your marketing campaigns, sales related activities, your oral communication skills at a larger level. I think Saturn is going to make you grind in these areas, but it is also going to reward you, because this is where the strength, the dignity of Mercury is going to help you shine. Now, remember, the reason I'm saying all positive bit, because Virgo sign falls in the 9th house for you, where Saturn is giving an aspect, and Mercury is your 9th lord. So if it is in decent strength, Mercury is any which ways a yoga Karaka planet in a way for you folks here as well. It is going to bring positive impact for you folks in this area. Therefore, leverage this time, this shift of Saturn in Revati to your fullest, especially if you are in these areas. Maybe your digital pitches, social media related campaigns, e-commerce related businesses, starting something with respect to social media, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, those kind of activities. Again, it shows a lot of promise here. Travel is going to become prominent. Fun during travel, is also going to become all the more prominent. I think short distance travels or maybe even long distance travels, business travels are going to be coming into picture. Long distance travels are going to be especially fruitful for you during this period. But I still find positivity, not because of Saturn, but because of Jupiter's aspect, where the short duration, short distance holidays, travels are going to be turning out in the way that you anticipate. You will be working, you will be busy even in your holiday periods as well. So please be mentally prepared for that situation to be coming into picture. Now, this could also be a time period where you could be writing or you could be strategizing the final blueprint of your ventures, of your startups, of the initiative that you want to take even at your job place, in your workplace. Because I think this shift, as I have been calling out, Saturn's entry into Revati is like the last leg, the final end of the tunnel before light shines up. So Saturn here is going to make you plan for that long term, and it is going to make you think as to what are the visionary shifts that you might have to make to course correct yourself, to improve yourself, or set the stone for the next few years to follow. It is going to be an indicator of second inning of sorts. I have been calling out for multiple lagnas, for multiple signs, but it depends from here, that is it going to be your shift from your job to your business, from your business to your job, or vice versa. Those kind of scenarios could be coming into picture. From a finance standpoint, I see good profitable deals coming into picture for people who are independent contractors, people who are into writing stuff, who are into publishing stuff, who are in media related businesses, who are in travel sort of roles, marketing roles, sales roles. Those kind of areas, I see a very positive uptick coming into picture just because of your own acumen, of your own knowledge. And there is going to be some support of luck, destiny also coming into picture in this sphere. The third aspect is falling into your fifth house, which means that Saturn is going to try and give some sort of a stability in your investment areas as well. Mind you guys, there are going to be speculative tendencies that are going to come into picture. Saturn in Revati can trigger some speculative tendencies, but refrain from that unless and until you are backed by technical data, some sort of financial analysis, some sort of financial engineering. If you have done that, is where it is going to be helpful for you. Saturn is your second lord as well. So from a money perspective, savings perspective, I see you should be doing well, you should be doing good in that sphere. Now, from a love relationship standpoint, communication with your younger siblings, or relationship with your immediate community members, from your neighbors, etc., is going to see some bit of a shift. There is going to be some bit of seriousness that is going to come into picture. A lot of practical behavior could also be coming into picture. Very transactional, give and take sort of a relation orientation is going to be coming into place. You could come across highly authoritative to them, towards your siblings, towards your cousins, your neighbors for that matter. And as a matter of fact, what you would prefer doing is to be succinct, to be very direct, to be very brief. That sort of a behavior could also be coming into picture. So see if that is what is sticking to your nature. Not necessarily, but you are Capricorns ruled by Saturn. I'm not very sure if that is exactly how you would want to articulate your thought process. The other bit that you'll have to remember here is that your speech could become quite authoritative, but at the same time, if you bring some degree of pleasantries, some comic timing, some keeping things light, that will take those relationships much further, much longer. There could be some in your marriage, if you are married, if you are already engaged in a relationship, there could be a situation where you could be required to provide support to your spouse, to your partner, with respect to their career moves. You could have to take up certain responsibilities in the relationships so that they can make some independent career drive as well. So be ready to take those kind of responsibilities, stand up in the relationship as well. That is going to be crucial. From a love romance perspective, Saturn is giving a third aspect. Again, it is not going to be easy with respect to the romantic life just yet as well. So I don't see much of a shift with respect to the nakshatra coming into picture. Now, with respect to health, I think this is a time where your investment towards your physical stamina is going to show results to you. So if you've been working out, if you've been listening to this channel, and if you've been doing some exercise, some physical activities on the road, it's going to give you rewards. However, ear related infections, something related to nerve strain in your arms, shoulders, that area, muscle pull up, etc., those kind of problems can bother you as well. Be ready to experience those kind of situations. For my student audience who are looking from an education standpoint, it's a good time, by the way, to reskill, upskill yourself, go and study abroad, pursue some education with respect to journalism, with respect to coding, with respect to digital skills, marketing skills for that matter. You could do really well in those forms. People who are in arts, in terms of traditional creative pursuits, you are going to do well. Something in a modern era might be challenging for you. Again, you might have to equip yourself from a mathematical, logical, number oriented fashion, because that is going to become hyper crucial to determine the success coming your way. From a remedy perspective, what I would want to call out is that since Saturn is in your third house coming into this, bring in, don't be too stiff in your communication. Bring in some openness, be a bit jovial, especially around your siblings, your neighbors, even in your formal communication. Maybe adding a tinge bit of lightness may not be a bad idea. Other than that, from a spiritual standpoint, if you donate something with respect to food, either to your boss, or maybe just take out somebody in your neighborhood, at your workplace, for a lunch food outing, and you foot the bill for it, excellent remedy for you to measure at this point in time. Now, folks, if you've enjoyed the insights and the thought process that I bring to the table, this is the most opportune time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dave Astrology, maybe consider being a member of my channel as well, and keep watching me. Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Mahadev. So Aquarius, you can watch this video both from an Aquarius rising Lagna as well as Aquarius moon sign perspective. And for Aquarius moon, of course, it is the very last phase of Sade Sati which is coming into picture. Now, Saturn happens to be the lord of your first house as well as your 12th house, which talks about isolation, and it is transiting in your second house of wealth, family, and speech. And from here, it aspects your 4th house in the sign of Taurus, your 8th house into the sign of Virgo, and your 11th house in the sign of Sagittarius, the lord of whom is coming into exaltation very soon. Now, from a career, job, and business perspective, your Lagna lord sitting is right at your treasure box. It is sitting in your second house itself. So your entire physical, mental, emotional energy is going to be securing the long-term stability in your life, especially with respect to your finances. And this is where what you would notice is that the third aspect is falling into your 4th house, which means that there is going to be some degree of steadiness, which is what you are going to bring from a home office environment perspective if you are working from home. Even when if you are engaged working from your office, or if you are in a business that requires you to be outside, somewhere or the other, your meticulous planning, number driven calculation, strategy that you want to build in the long term is going to be coming in when you are alone, when you are isolated at your home office. So that is going to be extremely crucial. And I would even urge you, Aquarius, that it may not be a bad idea for you to introspect and see that how you are planning. Maybe have some bit of an idea board in your home office as well, to put your thought process out there in the open for you to explore. This is exactly what Saturn is going to be pushing in, whether you are running a business or you are employed somewhere. The other bit that you will have to be mindful is that Saturn is also going to form some degree of a connection with foreign sources, foreign elements. And if you can bring some connection in your business, in your job, where you are engaged in projects that allows you to do cross-border collaboration, that allows you to work on projects where your delivery is engaged with people from a different cultural background, or in your business, if you can bring in some services, some products that helps you address a new market segment, a completely new geography. It might be within your own country limits itself. It will definitely not be a bad idea. It is something that you must explore, and you must explore with number crunching. Number analysis is going to become crucial for you folks at this point in time. There's also a very strong probability that in Revati, Saturn is going to push you towards some sort of a closure and achievement of something new. So with respect to your workplace, with respect to your earnings, savings, you could be looking at in terms of consolidating something in one role, and then maybe pivoting into something different, into something new, so that you can attract more gains. And as we're talking about gains, let's touch upon the finances, because this is going to be absolutely critical. Saturn is giving an aspect towards the 11th house into the sign of Sagittarius, and I don't want to talk about Jupiter right now because we will be doing a Jupiter video as well, but somewhere or the other, that 10th aspect tends to bring a freeze towards cash flows as well. But you are going to learn how to manage those cash flows. You will learn how to preserve wealth as well. And the reason I say that is that when Saturn is in Revati, it is going to give you an inkling, an idea as to how practical approach can be brought in with respect to your cash management. As I was alluding to this with respect to inflows and outflows in the first part of the video itself. So you will have to look into those areas. You will have to leverage your networks as well. New connections coming in your network that you are going to forge during this period are going to be especially helpful. Remember, Mercury rules your 8th house as well as your 5th house. So you will have to bring in some degree of creativity, some out of the box thinking at this point in time. Now, this could be with respect to old family debts, ancestral cleansing, because the aspect of Saturn is towards the 8th house as well. So something related to inheritance, something related to old property matters, something related to family disputes, or joint finances that you hold with your spouse, with your in-laws, or with your larger family for that matter, debts with your larger family, they can come into some unexpected closure as well of sorts. Banking compliances are going to be extremely important. Taxation related compliances, government authority related compliance, regulatory compliances are going to be crucial. Please be watchful on that front, or else it can bring in losses. Okay, so it's not all positive. There could be some losses also coming in from that matter, but a lot of closures seem to be coming in from a finance perspective. Now, from a relationship, love, romance, marriage perspective, you would notice that Saturn in here has made you extremely serious, extremely precise of sorts, cutting like a knife, as I've been calling out all this while, maybe even emotionally detached to a certain extent. But two things are going to come into picture. See, Jupiter's exaltation is a crucial bit that is falling right in almost in a matter of couple of weeks in alignment to this Saturn shift. But Saturn has got into the nakshatra of Revati, into that of Mercury. So there is going to be some degree of improvement in how you articulate your thought process within your family, your expressions and bit. There is going to be a definitive shift. Saturn's behavior in Pisces in the same house is going to change just because of the nakshatra shift also coming into picture. So be mindful of that front. Your immediate family could have perceived you as cold. It's not that there will be a tremendous shift, but those light jokes, that exchange of not being too attacking all the while, some defensive demeanor, etc., is going to be coming into picture. You will turn soft, but you'll still be firm with your communication, preventing any kind of affliction situations, because Saturn's aspect is there towards the 4th house as well. From a romance perspective, I don't see any dramatic shift. As I said, there is going to be a sort of shift coming into your behavior, into how you are going to be dealing with things. Saturn is 8th from the 7th, so be watchful with respect to your relationships, with respect to how you conduct yourself. It is in the Marka placement as well, in the second house, so it's not going to be absolutely transformative or brilliant from your spousal partnership collaboration perspective, but you will steadily continue to build upon those areas. Now, from a health standpoint, as it is in the Marka placement in the second house, please be careful of this region of your throat, teeth, communication, even fatigue towards your right eye could be coming into picture. My call out would be more from a remedy standpoint a bit later. I just realized I missed calling out for my student audience here from an education perspective. This is a great time for you guys to learn something with respect to financial management, with respect to financial re-engineering, acumen in that space, learning about the macroeconomics and stuff, linguistic skills coming into picture. Saturn in Revati with Mercury being your fifth lord, again singing, communication, etc. is going to be a very good area for you to work upon. Now, coming back to the remedies and the impact that you can have on that front, my recommendation here is be watchful on the dry or spicy food that you are consuming during this period, because that can impact you, and hold on to a emergency cash reserve as well. That should be something not in front of your eyeballs, hidden somewhere, that you use for an absolutely difficult situation. Now, I'm not saying that is going to come into picture. Just use that, just have that cash reserve in place. All in all, if you enjoy the insights and the thought process that I bring to the table here, this is a great time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dev Astrology, and keep watching. Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Mahadev. Now, Pisces, you can watch this both from a Pisces Lagna rising or Pisces moon sign perspective. Now, you have to remember, if you're watching from a Pisces moon, this is going to be a period where in your peak phase of Sade, Saturn is in the last chapter entering into the sign of Revati Nakshatra. Now, Saturn rules your 11th house and your 12th house. It is in your first house, and from here, it's giving an aspect towards your third house in the sign of Taurus, 7th house into Virgo, and 10th house into the sign of Sagittarius. From a career, job, business orientation perspective, I anticipate this is going to be an absolute peak of you doing restructuring of sorts, revisit of sorts coming into picture. The 10th aspect is falling onto your 10th house of career, which means that your obligation towards your career is going to be monumental. Now, remember, I have been calling out the fact that Saturn is in the last phase. It is like reaching to an end, or a new beginning is there, because it has to clear the last phase of the tunnel. It's the last chapter that it has to close in Revati Nakshatra before the entire cycle closes. And this is where you will realize that everything that you have learned all this while, accumulation of that and implementation of that of sorts is going to come into picture. Your clients, your bosses, your customers, your people in the society, in the community that you operate in, they are going to demand absolute maturity from you, gravitas coming in from your side, supporting people, running things in the best fashion that you can, in the best capacity that you can handle. That bit is going to be coming into picture. You will have to be shedding your old professional self, and you will enter into a new executive sovereignty of sorts. And what do I mean by that? See, at the end of the day, this is going to be the phase where you are going to see that transformation of yourself, evolving yourself to the next level. So that next level can be, and we are talking positive here, can be at a next level in terms of growth, or it can be an absolute decline. But assuming the dignity of Mercury and Saturn is not abysmally bad, the Ashtavarga scores are good, this is a time. Saturn is not here to reprimand unless and until the karmas have been too bad. Saturn is going to say that let's push hard. It's going to be a testing time from a Sade Sati perspective as well, guys. If again watching from a moon sign standpoint, but this is going to be a time where if you put in your efforts in the right direction, that last push, that last fight, that last battle that you have to give in the Pisces phase where Saturn is ending its cycle, Saturn is going to help you evolve, because it wants to accumulate all your learnings, mix them up, extract the juice out of it, and then boil into something entirely different that takes you to that next phase. I hope that makes sense. So from your job perspective, from your business perspective as well, because Saturn is giving an aspect towards your seventh house into the sign of Virgo, which is ruled by Mercury in the same nakshatra where Saturn is traversing. So even from a business standpoint, there are very strong positive possibilities coming into picture, transformative possibilities coming into picture if you are numerical in your approach, mathematical in your approach. I've been giving this insights to almost all the signs. You have to bring that number crunching mindset in the way you deal with situations. You have to reach out to X number of customers. You have to take care of X number of patients, Y number of deliveries that you have to do. Whatever that business, that metric that you are tracking, you've got to be living against those metrics, what you've got to achieve, what you've got to accomplish. And that is what Saturn is going to be demanding out of you from here. From a financial perspective, your Lord of Gains, your 11th Lord itself, is sitting on top of your head, but it is going to demand abysmal amount of hard work from this situation. What you will realize is that wealth will continue to come your way. However, it will stabilize in your life if you are working with international corporations, with international customers, situations, or in multinational corporations for that matter. That 12th had a house effect. Large organizational setup, consulting setup, traveling sort of situations are going to bring that stability in your life. So that becomes hyper crucial for you. You could also be looking forward to be leveraging large scale networks in your life as well. So that bit is something you have to keep in mind. Remember, Mercury is also the lord of your fourth house, which means your knowledge, your intellect is going to be your savior in terms of your financial gains as well. And at the same time, this could be a very opportune period for many of you to have real estate based gains. Your estate value in itself sees some sort of an appreciation coming into picture. Now that might not be a direct reflection in your bank account, but be mindful of that bit as well. From a relationships perspective, seventh aspect is firing directly across into your house of marriage. So your partner, your spouse could be demanding a lot of 100% of your emotional and physical presence for that matter. And the good part is that dedication, that serviceness, that mindset with Saturn in Revati is going to be coming there. Like there is going to be a spiritual elevation of sorts that could well be seen for you, my Pisces friends, because you will realize that there is going to be an upliftment in your bond, in your relationship that can be coming into picture. You should not be hiding behind any things. I think it's about opening up your fears, working on your mistakes, working on your relationship, whilst bringing that spiritual connection into play. Because Revati is the ultimate nakshatra of Pisces. From a Kal Purush perspective, it is the closure of the cycle. It's the elevation of self to the next zone, to the next realm for that matter, and therefore that can reflect in your relationships as well. You could clear out old partnership patterns through raw, honest communication, interaction, and that is where I feel it is going to be a beautiful elevation as well for you from that perspective. For people who are single and looking in for new romantic connections, there is going to be a lot of depth in what you are going to explore in your relationships, in how you are going to navigate things. So be aware on that front as well. From a health standpoint, I see the risk of tremendous physical exhaustion coming into picture. You could have severe migraine like situations, dehydration coming into picture. Saturn is dry, cold aspects could be impacting you. Your sleep cycle could see some bit of an impact coming into picture. Saturn is coming to Revati. I mean, in the Pisces sign itself, it can be impacting completely, but your dreams in itself could become very imaginative and fun as well in a way. So that sort of an impact is going to be there, but please be mindful of your health situations. Try and get proper rest as much as possible. For my student audience watching this video, I would want to call out that intense amount of focus is going to be required at this point in time. You will have to focus hard to master complex concept Structurally, you'll have to work on acquiring your knowledge and information, number orientedness, mathematical, logical reasoning. All of that is going to become highly important. Your mental endurance, your sheer hard work with respect to working in isolation and grinding with respect to your own knowledge, your own grit, your logical thinking somehow is going to get tested during this phase. So be prepared. Number orientedness is going to become highly crucial. Now, last but not the least, from a remedy standpoint, consume lots of water. This is going to be a time where you must, not just consume yourself, but water donation, maybe setting up water stations where people who are travelers, either out of sheer heat or just donating water bottles for people who are in long journeys free of cost. Doing that sort of an activity will be a tremendous remedy that you can follow during this point in time. Practice yoga, pranayam, especially for my Pisces moon sign standpoint who are facing Sade Sati as well. It is going to be an excellent remedy for you from that perspective. Now, if you've enjoyed the insights and the thought process that I bring to the table here, this is the most opportune time for you to smash on that like button, subscribe to Dave Astrology, maybe even consider being a member of my channel and supporting me in this growth journey, and keep watching Dave Astrology. Om Namah Shivaya, Har Har Mahadev.